Hey, you. Yeah, you. The one with the can of butter on your fingers and a freezer full of mystery gummies. It's Margaret, your host of your favorite edibles podcast, Bite Me. And I've got a question. Why are you still DIYing your edible life alone? You deserve better. Join the Bite Me Cannabis Club. It's the secret stash you actually want to share. We're talking exclusive content, weekly sessions, edibles, inspo galore, a private community of cannabis growers, makers, and lovers who are just as obsessed or curious as you are. Whether you're microdosing like a pro or just figuring out what the hell decarb means, we've got your back. We're on a mission to grow our membership by the end of the summer, and guess what? I want you on that list. And don't worry, there's no subscriptions. So stop lurking and start connecting. Head to joinbiteme.com right now. That's joinbiteme.com. Bite Me Cannabis Club, where cannabis lovers connect, learn, and create together. Let's make some magic and maybe a mess, because let's be honest, that's half the fun. Welcome, friends, to episode 315. Today, we are going to be talking about lemon zucchini pasta. What happens when you take a love of food, a passion for culture, and a deep knowledge of cannabis, and you toss them all into one bowl? You get Bite Me, the podcast that explores the intersection of food, culture, and cannabis and helps cooks make great edibles at home. I'm your host, Margaret, the certified ganjier, TCI certified cannabis educator, and I believe your kitchen is the best dispensary you'll ever have. Together, we'll explore the stories, the science, and the sheer joy of making safe, effective, and unforgettable edibles at home. So preheat your oven and get ready for a great episode. Let's dive in, friends. So, I just realized a few minutes ago I had recorded this entire episode and I forgot to hit record. That was a real moment. I was like, shit, I literally have to do this entire thing all over again. So, hopefully the second time is better than the first anyway. But that is not a mistake I am in the habit of making, thank God, because I think that would probably drive me crazy. I even had a whole trivia question, which now I probably have to pick out a new one. But before we get into today's episode, I just want to say a big shout out to Danny from Maryland, who sent me a SpeakPipe message just to say hello and thanks for your work that you do for the podcast. And I really appreciate getting those kinds of messages for people, letting me know where they're listening from and that they enjoy the show. So thank you for that, Danny of Maryland. And you can also leave your own SpeakPipe message if you wish. You can find it at all over the place. I think it's SpeakPipe/Bite Me Podcast or something like that. Speakpipe.com/Bite Me Podcast. But it's also at the end of every episode post on my website for sure. It's probably in my link tree on social media. It's all over the place, so it shouldn't be too hard to find. But I love getting those types of messages, so thanks for that. And I'm a little harried now that I realize what I've done by not hitting record. But if you're just tuning in for the first time today, thank you. I'm glad you found the show. I would love to know how you found the show. Did somebody share it with you? Did you stumble upon it? Did you see something on the socials? That is valuable information for independent podcasters like myself. And if you have been a long-time listener, thanks for being here. I really appreciate you and the fact that you're tuning in each week and reaching out when you can and joining the Bite Me Cannabis Club too. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you wonderful folks listening each and every week. So now I have to find a new trivia question because I obviously stuck the other one back into the deck. And yes, we are doing Stoner Trivia Race to 420 Trivia Card Game. After smoking some weed, two stoners tried to get to their favorite restaurant while encountering many obstacles along the way. Was the restaurant White Castle, Taco Bell, or McDonald's? I have seen this movie, and what was it called again? I don't even remember. But if you answered White Castle, you would be correct. It's funny that the other question that I did in my previous version of this same episode was also a movie question. And movie trivia is kind of fun. Sometimes might come in handy. You never know. But I would love to hear what your favorite cannabis movie is. I hate to say stoner movie because I also find that a lot of those movies really focus on those negative stoner stereotypes that we're like, why won't these stereotypes ever die? And it's, well, some of these movies certainly don't help that fact because they always portray stoners in the exact same way. So I hate to say stoner, but what are your favorite cannabis films? We've been doing some watch parties inside the Bite Me Cannabis Club, which have been a lot of fun. And I wouldn't say there's any movies that every cannabis user must see, but we did watch Reefer Madness for the first one that I hosted. That movie is pretty bad. If you have an opportunity to watch it in like a watch party, it's definitely the preferred way to enjoy it, or with a group of people, preferably while enjoying some cannabis, because it is so ridiculous. And the acting is also kind of shit. A lot of it's actually pretty shit, but let's not forget it was also filmed in like 1930 something, in 1936, I think, and was dubbed and was lauded by critics as one of the worst movies of all time. And I think it was sort of after that it became a bit of a cult classic, but definitely worth watching with people. Otherwise, not really worth watching at all. So, I mean, there's so much lore from that Reefer Madness and that phrase that, sometimes checking it out to see what it's about is kind of fun, but the movie itself, not great. I'll leave it at that. The other one we did for watch parties was Weed and Wine, which I would recommend. I would recommend this one. This was an interesting film that covered two distinct families, one in France growing grapes for wine and one in Humboldt, California growing cannabis. And it was a really interesting look at these two different families because obviously one was operating in a legal market and the other was mostly operating in the illegal market prior to legalization in California, although now they are experiencing different issues now that there is a legal market in California. Very interesting to watch the similarities between the two industries and the things that they have to go through. And fun fact, Kevin Jodrey and his son are featured in the Weed family. And Kevin is a huge cannabis advocate. He's been involved in the industry for a very long time, and he's also part of the Gangier Council. So I had the opportunity to meet him in California when I went there to do my training. So that was a really cool connection. And then the third movie we did was Marijuana Moment. That one was about a woman who finds a vape pen that allows time travel. And that one was okay. I think I fell asleep and yeah. So anyway, I would love to hear what your favorite movies are. We'll probably be doing more watch parties inside the Bite Me Canvas Club upcoming as well. And your recommendations are always helpful. I've been making a lot of things recently, actually, because there's been so much bounty at the markets and in the stores and on my deck with the herbs that I planted because I feel like I need to use them up. So I recently made some pesto, which was excellent. And I shouldn't say it's excellent. I tasted some of it, of course, but I froze it in ice cube trays so that I could have some over the winter when my herbs on the deck are but a distant memory. I also made a plum tort, which I have covered on this show previously, probably a couple of years ago. And that recipe was generously donated by listener Terry. And I really appreciated that recipe. I've made it a few times, but I got some lovely plums from the market and I wanted to use them. And because I made this confetti cake recently as well. So I'll back up a little bit. I infused this plum tort, which is just a cake that doesn't have a lot of flour in it. So it doesn't rise as much. But I made this and I infused it with CBD because I wanted to be able to share it with my father because recently I made a confetti cake. So I had Wesley Holloway, founder of Benevolent Bakery, on the show last week. And if you haven't checked that out, I highly recommend that you do. I love what he's doing in the cannabis space as far as the product and his social mission as well. And he sent me a couple of boxes to try out myself. And I made the confetti cake, which is an infused cake mix. It's such a great idea. And I often recommend people who are just starting out that you start with a cake mix to sort of practice. You don't have to worry about the baking, but this takes even more guesswork out of it. So I think it's a fun thing to have on hand. If you're making a lot of edibles yourself, sometimes you're just busy and you want to be able to whip up something quick, and this fits the bill. It would make a great gift. And of course, there's the social aspect where the proceeds from every sale go to a local nonprofit that is helping their local community. And I think that's a wonderful way for the cannabis community to give back. So I made this confetti cake for the Bite Me Cannabis Club. I was doing like a live cooking stream, I guess, and I made this confetti cake, and it turned out really great. And of course, my dad saw the finished product, and he's like, "Ooh, what's this?" Because I have this like big tray of like confetti cake in it, and I had to tell him like that's infused, and you're welcome to have some. But he's like, "Oh no, I don't think I'll be doing that." And I felt kind of bad. That man has quite a sweet tooth. That is the reason I have my sweet tooth. I know this because he goes through way more maple syrup than any human really ought to. But I understand it, of course, because maple syrup is fabulous, but he has a huge sweet tooth. So I felt bad that he was not going to indulge. And frankly, a lot of people have asked, like, do you think you'll ever get him to consume? And I don't know if I will, and I'm not necessarily interested. I don't know what would happen if a man of 94 were to get high or even too high, knowing that he's never consumed cannabis ever in his entire life. I just don't want that on my hands. It would make me way too paranoid. Because sometimes when I get really high at night and I'll be like just sort of in bed ready to go to sleep or whatever, my mind will start to go, and I'm always just like, and this always happens only when I'm really high. Otherwise, it never even crosses my mind. But I'm like, what if something happens? What if he gets up in the middle of the night and he needs help? I think worst case scenario, and I'm like really stoned and I can't drive a lot. I don't know. It's kind of ridiculous. So anyway, I made the plum tort infused with CBD so he could also enjoy it. Of course, I told him there was CBD in it, but he's far more accepting of that because it's not intoxicating. And so it's much safer. So that's what I made. I also made the confetti cake, of course. And if you want to check that out, Wesley did offer a lovely discount using code BITEME20 at Shop Benevolent Bakery. If you want to check it out for yourself and try them, you can get them in 250 milligrams and 100 milligrams baking mixes. And they have some new ones coming out. Oh, baked brie. I made some baked brie. So I have a guest that's coming on the show. I'll let you know at the end of the episode who it is. He shared a cooking video in the Bite Me Cannabis Club, and it is a baked brie with wrapped in phyllo dough and with pecans and rosemary. And I'm like, I have rosemary in my back deck that I need to be using up. And it was fabulous. Sometimes cheese for dinner is acceptable. And I don't feel guilty about that at all. I did not infuse that one. You easily can because there's a little bit of butter put in the sauce that you pour over the baked brie. You have to remember, friends, a lot of these recipes, if you don't want to infuse them, you don't have to. You can infuse them or not infuse them. It's your choice. You're taking control of your high life. Sometimes it's not appropriate. And I'm also going to be making a hollandaise sauce by this same person who shared this recipe with me, and I'll be testing that out soon too, so you'll be seeing that coming up as well, because I'll be sharing that one on this very show. Lemon zucchini pasta. This one was so good. I will be making it again. I will be adding it to the repertoire because it was simple, used simple ingredients, and was easy to dose. And those are all the things, they check all the boxes. And it didn't take that long to make. I also prefer, I also like recipes where you're not slaving over the stove, but you end up with something that's amazing. The recipe as it was written makes 4 servings. I found that we got more servings than that out of it. I think more like 6. So that was also great. I love nothing better than a dish that you can make once and eat twice, potentially 3 times. I mean, I love leftovers. I know there's people out there who don't like them. Sometimes I wonder if those people cook. When you have to feed a family or feed a bunch of people or feed yourself every single day, leftovers are a game changer. So I'll let you know sort of what you need for this recipe because it is lovely. And I ended up finding it because I had gone to the market a few weeks ago and I found this, I brought home this giant zucchini. I don't remember why I brought a giant zucchini, except I think the farmer stand that I went to only had seemingly large zucchinis. Otherwise, I do prefer small ones because I like to grill them or I like to make them into stir fries and I don't necessarily need this like giant zucchini, but it worked perfectly for this recipe because you need a 2-pound zucchini or summer squash or 4 to 6 medium zucchinis. Well, I don't even know if I weighed it. I just used the entire thing. You're going to need a small onion or a shallot. Which is it? I don't know. 4 large cloves of garlic. You need extra virgin olive oil, crushed red pepper flakes, salt, freshly ground black pepper, your pasta, spaghetti, linguine, bucatini, whatever it is that you prefer, a lemon, Parmesan, lightly packed basil or mint leaves, or a combination of both. I used both because I happen to have both growing on my deck, and heavy cream. So as you can see, a lot of people would have these ingredients already on hand. You might have to go out and actually get the zucchini. The ingredients in this particular recipe are simple, which is what lends itself so beautifully to this dish. And essentially, I'm just going to check to make sure I'm still recording. Yes, I am. Without going through all the details of the recipe, because I'll share it in the show notes as well, so you can just read it yourself. But the concept is that you're going to grate the zucchini and the onion and the garlic if you choose. I ended up grating the garlic separately, or not grating, I ended up mincing it separately and just adding it to the pot when I added the zucchini and the onion. But you put a clean kitchen towel over your work surface, and then you grate the zucchini and the onion together, and then you gather up the ends of the towel and you squeeze out as much water from the zucchini as possible. You squeeze it and squeeze it and squeeze it. That is literally the hardest part of this recipe. And it's good because it's probably helping you with your grip strength. And I have read that good grip strength is associated with longevity. So there you go. This is helping you live longer as well as eating good food. And then you go through some steps. You heat the olive oil and you add in your zucchini, your grated zucchini and all these things. Like I said, I'm not going to really get into it, but that is the thing that sort of makes this different. You're going to make your pasta, you're going to heat your olive oil and then add in your red pepper flakes and then let that cook and get fragrant. And then you add in your zucchini, onion, and garlic. While that's cooking and while the pasta water is boiling, you're going to you're going to roughly chop your basil and mint, whatever it is that you're using. You're going to grate your Parmesan. And I can say right here unequivocally, I have never used a zester to grate Parmesan or a planer. What do they call them? A microplane. And I'm like, why have I not done this before in my life? I don't understand. It made the fluffiest pile of Parmesan I've ever experienced in my entire life. And I was like, this is immensely useful and another reason to use this microplaner, because I always used to think of it as a zester. It was just to get the zest off the rind of citrus fruit. But no, it can be for so much more. I was pleasantly surprised. And then you're also going to measure out your lemon juice. Now, I didn't actually use lemon juice like from a fresh lemon. I always have bottled organic lemon juice in my fridge. So I just used some of that. And so while you're doing all that, you're going to add your pasta to the water. You're cooking up your zucchini mixture. And then once the pasta is done cooking to al dente, you're going to take out some of the pasta water, the cooking liquid, and reserve that. You're not going to dump it all out. And then you're going to take tongs and put your pasta directly into the pot with the zucchini. And it's okay if some of the water clings to it. That's perfectly acceptable. And then you're going to cook that all together. Add a little bit of the pasta water. And this is where you add in some of your heavy cream along with the pasta water. You stir it up a little bit, and then you're going to be adding your cheese and maybe a little bit more pasta water, stirring it all up, making it nice and creamy, making it into a nice and creamy sauce that coats the pasta. And just before you remove the pasta from the heat, you're going to add in your lemon juice and your herbs as well. And then you're going to serve it topped with some extra Parmesan if you want, salt and pepper. And it is chef's kiss. I highly recommend this particular recipe. And it's a good one to have in the repertoire because it doesn't take too long to put together. Now, you might be saying, but Margaret, how do you infuse this? Well, in this particular case, what I would do is I would drizzle some infused olive oil on the top after serving. I would probably drizzle it on and then add a little bit of Parmesan and the salt and pepper on top. And the reason for this is because you could add it when you're going to be cooking the zucchini and you're adding in the red pepper flakes, but then that's infusing the entire dish. And sometimes you want to have a little more control over your infusion process. And if you add it afterwards, that means you can serve it to a wider group of people. I can serve some to my dad. I can serve some to other people who might be coming over that have a different tolerance level than me. There's a lot of reasons why you might want to do that. It also means that if you have leftovers and you want to take them to work for lunch tomorrow or something to that effect, you don't have to worry about getting high while you're at work, because I don't know about you, but most workplaces I've been in kind of frown on that. So it's just a way to take control of your high life to be able to infuse per dish, per tolerance, and it's really easy to do, and it lends itself beautifully to this kind of recipe. So that's what I would recommend. Yes, you can add infused olive oil when you're cooking up the zucchini and stuff, but I think you're going to get more precise dosing and a better experience if you add the olive oil as a drizzle on the top. If you try it out, let me know how you love it. Let me know how you adapted it to make it your own, if you'd added or detracted anything, because the ability to modify recipes, I think, is fun and really helps you enjoy what you're cooking and eating as well. So let me know if you've tried it out and if you modified it in any way. Now, as far as next week goes, the guest I'll be having on is Adam Vandermeer of Your Canna Chef. Been a longtime listener of Bite Me, the show about edibles, and he is also contributing cooking videos to the Bite Me Cannabis Club, which have been incredible. I'm having him on the show to talk about his journey because he started Your Canna Chef a little while ago. He's going all in on it right now, and he is doing some really cool stuff in the cannabis space, and he's an incredible chef as well. So you can look forward to that next week. And of course, the invitation to join the Bite Me Cannabis Club is always open, and I hope you will consider joining the fine folks over there. I'm really proud of the space that we've co-created, myself and the members, and I think you would enjoy it too. It's a really safe and supportive space to talk about all things cannabis. With that, my friends, I will love you and leave you. I am your host, Margaret, and until next time, stay high.